Rain poured over the quiet streets of Portland that evening, the kind of steady drizzle that made the whole world seem grey and tired. Ethan Brooks tightened his jacket around himself as he jogged across the parking lot toward his old pickup truck. He'd just finished a double shift at the auto shop and was exhausted, but he still had to pick up his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, from his sister's place. Just as he slid into the driver's seat, his headlights caught a figure by the side of the road. A woman, soaked to the bone, sitting on the curb, her scrubs clinging to her knees. A nurse. Her shoulders trembled as she buried her face in her hands, the rain pouring over her like punishment. For a moment, Ethan hesitated. It was late and the world wasn't always kind. But then he remembered something his late wife used to say. Never walk past someone crying in the rain. It's God's way of asking if your heart still works. He sighed, grabbed his umbrella and stepped out. "Hey," he called softly. "You okay, miss?" The woman lifted her head. Her eyes, red, tired and filled with something deeper than exhaustion, met his. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I just need a minute." Ethan crouched beside her, careful not to startle her. "You look like you've had a rough day." She gave a broken laugh. "Rough week. Rough life, maybe." He offered his hand. "Come on, let me get you out of the rain. There's a diner down the street. Coffee's on me." She hesitated, but something in his steady, honest voice made her nod. The warm diner and cold truths inside the small roadside diner. Warmth and light replaced the storm outside. The waitress poured coffee as the woman wrapped her trembling hands around the cup. "I'm Ethan," he said. "And you are?" "Grace," she whispered. "Grace Miller. Fitting name," he smiled. "You work at the hospital?" She nodded. "St. Mary's, or—" "I used to," he frowned. "Used to?" Grace took a shaky breath. "I was a nurse there for 8 years. But last week, I made a mistake. A patient coded and—" Her voice broke. "I did everything right, Ethan, everything, but he didn't make it. His family blamed me. The hospital suspended me pending review. And then I got evicted. My landlord said he couldn't wait for late rent anymore." Ethan's heart sank. "You're saying you lost your job and your home in the same week?" She nodded, tears falling silently. "I've been sleeping in my car for 3 nights. I thought I could handle it, but tonight, I just couldn't anymore." He looked at her. This stranger who dedicated her life to saving others, now sitting broken over a cup of diner coffee. "You helped people for years, Grace. Maybe it's time someone helped you." She looked up, startled. "Why would you care? You don't even know me." Ethan smiled softly. "Because once I was you. A past not forgotten." He told her how 3 years ago he'd lost his wife Emily to cancer. How the hospital bills had drowned him and he'd almost lost his home. How one stranger, a nurse, had stayed with Emily through her final nights, comforting her when he couldn't bear to watch. She held Emily's hand when I couldn't. Ethan said quietly, "I never forgot that. She told me that compassion doesn't need repayment. It just needs to be passed on." Grace's eyes glistened. "You're telling me this to make me feel better?" "No," he said. "I'm telling you this because I owe the world one act of kindness. A small act, a big change." Ethan insisted Grace stay at his house that night, just until she could figure things out. She tried to refuse, embarrassed, but he wouldn't hear it. When they arrived, Lily ran up, her blonde curls bouncing. "Daddy, you're late." "Sorry, Peanut," he chuckled. "We have a guest. This is Miss Grace." Lily's eyes widened. "Are you a nurse?" "My mom was in the hospital once. Nurses are angels." Grace smiled weakly. "I used to be one." Lily took her hand with innocent certainty. "Then you still are?" That simple kindness, so pure and unfiltered, broke something inside Grace. She hadn't felt seen in days. She blinked back tears as Ethan handed her a towel and a warm meal. For the first time in a long while, she slept in a real bed, under a real roof, safe. Healing in the quiet. Over the next few days, Grace helped around the house, cooking, folding laundry, helping Lily with homework. Her presence brought warmth to the quiet home, One morning, Ethan found her in the kitchen making pancakes. "Careful," he teased. "Lily's gonna start preferring your cooking to mine." Grace laughed. "She already told me that." Then she turned serious. "Ethan, you didn't have to help me. You barely knew me." He leaned against the counter. "Maybe, but I think people cross our path for a reason. The twist of fate." A week later, Grace received a call. Her case had been reviewed. The hospital cleared her of wrongdoing. The patient's family had learned new details. The man had suffered an undetected heart condition that wasn't her fault. The hospital wanted her back. Grace's hands shook as she hung up. "Ethan, I got my job back," she said, tears streaming down her face. He grinned wide. "That's amazing!" "But I don't even know how to thank you," she said. "You gave me hope when I didn't have any." Ethan looked at her quietly. "You already did. You reminded me that kindness still matters." The full circle. Months later, Grace had moved into her own apartment but visited Ethan and Lily often. Their bond grew naturally, built not on romance first, but on respect, empathy, and second chances. One chilly autumn evening, she joined them for dinner. Lily was drawing at the table while Ethan fixed a leaky faucet. "Miss Grace," Lily asked suddenly, "why were you crying that day Daddy found you?" Grace paused. "Because I thought my life was over." "And is it?" the little girl asked. Grace smiled softly. "No, sweetheart. It was just beginning." Ethan looked up, his eyes meeting hers, and for a moment the room felt lighter, like rain washing away the past. Winter arrived softly in Portland, dusting the roofs and streets with silver frost. Ethan's small house felt warmer than ever. Grace had become more than a guest, she was family. Every morning she brewed coffee, while Lily's laughter echoed through the kitchen, a sound that had once been rare after Emily's passing. Ethan often caught himself watching Grace as she tied Lily's shoelaces or hummed quietly while folding laundry. There was something about her presence, a quiet strength that filled the spaces grief had hollowed out. She wasn't trying to replace anyone, yet somehow she helped him breathe easier again. One evening, while Lily was asleep, Ethan found Grace sitting by the window, staring out at the rain, tapping against the glass. "You still miss it, don't you?" he asked gently. She nodded. "The hospital, my patients, the chaos. It gave my life meaning." He sat across from her, leaning forward. "You still have that purpose, Grace. You didn't lose it, it just shifted for a while." Her eyes softened. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said. "Because I've seen you bring life back into this house." Lily smiling again. "And for the first time since Emily died, I feel like home means something." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "You don't know how much that means to me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I do." Days turned into weeks, and life slowly found rhythm again. Grace returned to the hospital, now more confident than ever. Her compassion ran deeper. Every patient reminded her of the night she'd sat crying in the rain and the stranger who had stopped to care. One afternoon, after finishing her shift, she found a small bouquet waiting at her locker, daisies, her favorite. A note read, "Thank you for helping us heal." It wasn't signed, but she didn't need to guess who had left it. That evening, she stopped by Ethan's garage, where he was working under a car hood. "So you're sending secret flowers now?" she teased. He grinned. "Guilty. You deserve something beautiful after what you've given us." Grace looked down, her voice soft. "You saved me, Ethan. You didn't even know me, but you saw me." He wiped the grease from his hands. "You were never invisible, Grace. You just forgot how bright you were." For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of rain on metal filled the silence between them. Then Ethan reached out, hesitated, and gently took her hand. She didn't pull away. Months later, spring returned, painting the world green again. Ethan, Grace, and Lily walked through the park, the sunlight glinting off puddles left from the morning rain. Lily ran ahead, chasing ducks, her laughter spilling across the breeze. Grace turned to Ethan. "Do you ever think about that night?" Every day, he admitted. I think about how I almost drove past you, and how everything good in my life now started because I didn't. She smiled, her eyes warm. Funny how sometimes the people we find in the rain end up being our shelter. Ethan squeezed her hand. Guess we both found ours. They stood there for a while, watching Lily chase her joy, the sky clearing above them. The rain had brought two broken souls together, not to fix each other, but to remind one another that even after the darkest storms, hope doesn't vanish. It just waits for someone kind enough to stop and see it. And as the sun broke through the clouds, Grace whispered the words she once thought she'd never say again. I'm finally home.